amidst the grandeur of the palaces of Pasargadae, where towering columns cast shadows of Achaemenid magnificence upon the earth, a child was born whose destiny was intertwined with a vast empire. He was named Cambyses, the eldest son of Cyrus the Great and Queen Cassindae. From his early childhood, his father's keen gaze was upon him. He learned warfare on the battlefield, politics in the royal halls, and leadership under the wisdom of Cyrus. Years passed, and he grew into a strong, intelligent, and ambitious man. In his youth, Cyrus appointed him as the governor of Babylon, a city whose gates had once fallen before the Achaemenids. But this was only a prelude to the greater fate that awaited him. The day the news of Cyrus's death in the steppes of the Massagetæ reached Persia, the entire land mourned. But for Cambyses, this death was not just a time for grieving. It was the beginning of a trial that would determine the fate of an empire. With a determined gaze, he placed the royal crown upon his head. The men of the court, the commanders of the army, and the Persian nobles all knelt before him. But ruling over a realm that stretched from the east to the west was no easy task. Whispers of discontent were heard among the nobles, and Cambyses knew he had to prove his authority. So he decided to march upon a land that had stood defiant against great powers for centuries: Egypt. He gathered a massive army, thousands of warriors, hundreds of war chariots, Indian war elephants, and ships provided by the Phoenicians. They crossed deserts, stepped upon scorching sands, and reached the gates of Egypt. Psamtik III, the young pharaoh of Egypt, stood against this army, but at the Battle of Pelusium, where spears tore through the sky and blood stained the sands, his forces were crushed. Memphis fell, and Cambyses, a proud conqueror, sat upon the pharaoh's throne. But his rule over Egypt was filled with stories that painted him in different lights. Some claimed he insulted the Egyptian gods, looted temples, and desecrated the tomb of Amasis, the former pharaoh. Others said these were all lies crafted by his enemies to tarnish his name. What is certain is that Cambyses, unlike his father, ruled with a harsher and more ruthless hand. After securing his power in Egypt, Cambyses decided to expand further into Nubia. He led his forces through the unforgiving deserts to the south, but what awaited them was a slow and relentless death. Dehydration, starvation, and disease ravaged the Achaemenid army. Those who survived returned to Egypt with broken bodies and shattered spirits. And this was only the beginning of the crisis. During these troubled times, news reached him from Persia. Bardia, his brother, had seized the throne. Cambyses' face darkened upon hearing the news. Was his brother truly alive, or had another man taken his place? Some nobles whispered that this man was not the real Bardia, but rather Gaumata the Magus, who had deceitfully usurped the throne. There was no choice. With an exhausted and battered army, Cambyses began his return journey. But fate had written a different ending for him. In the middle of the journey, in Syria, a mysterious wound appeared on his body. Some said that while mounting his horse, a dagger in its sheath pierced his side. Others believed it was an assassination, a conspiracy by discontented nobles who resented his rule. He lay on his deathbed. The wound was too deep to heal. Gazing at the sky, he murmured softly, "Was this my fate, to conquer the world, yet die in exile?" A few days later, his life came to an end. His soldiers, in solemn silence, laid their king to rest. But Persia did not remain at peace. Gaumata the Magus, or the false Bardia, claimed the throne, only to be overthrown months later by Darius, one of the greatest Achaemenid kings, who restored the empire. Cambyses' name faded in the shadow of two great kings, his father Cyrus and his successor Darius. Yet if Egypt remained among the lands of the Achaemenids, if the Persian banner flew high over the Nile, it was only because of the will and determination of the man who had written his destiny with the blade of his sword. He departed, but his story remained in history, like footprints upon desert sands, taking on new colors with every passing wind.